Keeping venomous reptiles is an unforgiving hobby, requiring proper training and lots of experience. One simple mistake can be the difference between life and death. Remember, the most venomous snake in the world is the one that just bit you. There are no venomous snakes with training wheels. Just because you see Viperkeeper handle snakes a certain way does not mean you should try it too.
Well, I'm on vacation, fortunately, from my full-time job. At the end of the year, many people ask me what I do. I've been a professional electron microscopist since 1979. I left clinical work and research electron microscopy in 1986, and I started my career in the industry side on companies that provide instrumentation and supplies for the microscopy world, and that spans, biological sciences, materials sciences, both in government, university, and private industry. I'm a senior manager and microscopist at a company that supplies these industries and is currently the largest supplier of this sort of stuff. It's basically a big catalog with 35 or 40,000 items, as well as instruments that we sell to this industry. So I started a very big project for the company, a very important one this year, and I put off all my vacation for this year, so I get the whole second half of December on vacation, but I am on call and stuff, and I will help my customers, because just because I'm on vacation doesn't mean that their support goes away. So, but this allows me quite a bit of time to spend with the snakes and such, and of course it gives me time to spend time with Lori, which I don't get to do at least on a daily basis. I'm gone from like 6:30 in the morning till about 5:30 in the evening every day, and I travel a lot for business, so this gives me time to spend with her. So one of the tasks this week, because the Christmas holiday is Saturday and Sunday, which are my normal days that Lori and I spend taking care of the snakes, and sometimes with my assistant Dan. Since it's a holiday and all the really, it would be really unprofessional of me to bother the snakes on a holiday and have to show up at the ER with holiday staffing and disturb my medical toxicologists that take care of me in case of an emergency. So it will be, Saturday and Sunday, Christmas Eve and Christmas Day will be totally hands-off in the lair. I won't do anything other than come in here and turn on the misting system and check and make sure the temperatures are okay and all the animals are where they're supposed to be. So we're playing catch-up this week and sort of preemptively cleaning cages, and we'll probably give Thud a soak because he's in pre-shed and we don't want to have to worry about him having a bad shed. So today or this morning we're working on the baby Insularis that were born on May 22nd of this year, and I have 5 of them left. If you remember, there was about 15 or 19 babies, I forget the exact count. So the easiest way to move them from place to place is, I peel their stickers off, put it on a fresh, clean bin, and since they're large now and they can't get out through these holes, on their old cages I have them in cages without any holes, so they get a little bit more airflow. We put fresh substrate in a water dish in now, and of course they're bendy sort of arboreal support. I will be moving these onto larger cages. maybe one or two in addition will be rehomed and stuff. That's yet to be determined, but these are the 5 remaining from the litter. You can see this one's number 1 and number 13, so there was at least 13 babies. Number 11 is what we're working on next. Number 11 is the problem child. There's always one in the group. Number 11 really only will eat geckos. Everybody else is feeding on frozen thawed pinks, which is the preferred way to do it. So what I'll do is I'll pull the cage out, and hopefully, well, so far they've been mostly cooperative. Number 2 was uncooperative and decided to play snake hockey, and this is why we sort of brought the camera out, just in case. So they need a substrate change, and you can see that when they're babies, we tape over the holes. If the bin doesn't have a hole drilled in it, it's better, but sometimes we don't have those available because they're already occupied. But we'll pull the tape off and clean these and put them, back in the slots. As you can see, there's lots of empty cages because we're currently not breeding anything right now. So what we're going to do is we grab the U-plex, just because this snake will be difficult, I'm certain. We'll hook it out and we'll U-plex it into the bin. And this one, of course, is no drama because the camera's running.
Of course.
But the beauty of the U-plex is that I can insert the cage without the little blighter getting out free, and it's a safe, very convenient technique which was taught to me by one of my mentors, Don Midow, who's a retired keeper now. And this is a technique which has come in handy so many times it's not even funny. I can't imagine having to deal with the little blighters playing snake hockey all the time, and also works really well with big dangerous snakes, not these small dangerous snakes. I've got anti-venom for these guys, and certainly probably even without anti-venom, the bite probably wouldn't be lethal, but it would certainly ruin your week. You would have some coagulopathy, you would certainly have some swelling and some local tissue damage. Anti-venom, will minimize this, because the venom doesn't, unlike what you've heard and learned about, venom really doesn't travel back in your veins. It travels in your lymphatic system, and it gets absorbed into the tissue fluid and travels back through your lymphatic system, which is another vascular system which isn't really discussed. And the cytotoxins damage your lymphatic system. And we see this many times in copperhead bites in the United States, where people will have edema and swelling in a limb, whether it be their arm or their hand or their foot and leg, because the venom damages the lymphatic system and it doesn't allow your cellular fluid, your cytosol as it's known, to flow back through your lymphatic system, up your arm or up into your groin, and then it dumps into it dumps back in the circulatory system and then enters the veins, which go out and about, back to the heart and through your lungs and your body, your normal circulation. So it really doesn't travel into your veins, and this way in Australia, with a properly applied pressure immobilization bandage, they restrict the flow of the highly toxic elapids that they have in Australia from the venom getting into your systemic system, causing all the bad problems that it does. We don't use any constriction bandages or pressure bandages here in the United States because we don't have that sort of a lapid, and correctly applying a pressure bandage is a tricky thing. I have pressure immobilization bandages, tacked here on the wall. If I took a bite from one of the Death Adders or Mr. Brown, I would most certainly apply a constriction bandage, which, when applied properly, works really well. When I was in Australia for the first time, some hiker who was rappelling down a cliff managed to land himself on a large tiger snake which bit him in the calf. And he was in this ravine and had to be, air-evac'd out, and it took 6 hours to get him to the hospital. And he applied a correctly positioned applied pressure bandage, and that kept him relatively symptom-free from the tiger snake bite. And when they got him to the hospital and they got him plugged into IVs and under emergency care, when they released the pressure bandage, he immediately crashed and had to be intubated, and they really had to push the anti-venom and resuscitate him. So it really does work, but it is only applicable for Australian or Papua New Guinean elapids. You wouldn't use it for, let's say, a monocle cobra bite, simply because the cytotoxins, you're restricting those cytotoxins to your local area, and you will have massive tissue damage. You really want to get that sort of out circulating. So, there's many papers on the Sunderland compression bandage and how to properly apply it. If you want to see a really fine example, Dr. David Williams of Papua New Guinea was tagged in the field by a taipan when he was out with a film crew, and the film crew caught it all on camera. And if it wasn't for a properly applied pressure bandage, he probably wouldn't have survived to get back to the hospital to receive the anti-venom.
And it was the last vial of anti-venom that they had.
Yes. This was at a time where Papua New Guinea was relying on Australian anti-venom, and David was in the process of getting a specific anti-venom for Papuan snakes, because the Australian anti-venom was very expensive, and the government of Papua New Guinea really couldn't afford a lot of it. He was very fortunate, and he, it took him a while to recover from the bite, because the Australian anti-venom really wasn't specific for the Papuan taipan, so it takes more vials to neutralize its anticoagulant effects that exist in that particular subspecies of taipan. So that's what we're doing this weekend, is we're moving the babies. So we're going to move those one by one. I'm not going to bore you with the theatrics. We just have a lot of ground to cover, and I thought you might appreciate a little bit of knowledge about snakebite treatment, as well as seeing how the babies are doing.